What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I've just got a super quick little tips and tricks video for you guys for the Battlefield 2042 beta, just to sort of speed up the process for you guys so that you can hopefully get right into the swing of things and therefore enjoy the beta even more and for a longer period, since it is a rather short beta. I have to give a massive shout out to EA for inviting me along to the early beta session, which for those wondering is why I'm able to give some tips already, because obviously as you're watching this, the beta is only just out, so I was able to pretty much be the test dummy for you guys, learn some do's and don'ts, and I'm going to just give some of the tips that I learned, like I said. Now keep in mind, this is going to be a very broad and sort of simple tips and tricks video compared to the guide content that I'd normally make. I will be making in-depth guides once the game is out, but for now I'm just going to keep it super simple and quick to get you guys rolling, and then once the game is actually out we can get into the deeper guides. Before we get into it, if you guys are new to the channel, then do consider subscribing and turning on those notifications. But with that being said, let's get stuck right into it. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the weapons just very briefly, because it is a bit more of a subjective thing, and I will actually have a proper video on the best weapons to use coming out 24 hours after this video, but for now I will still touch on which weapons I've found to be the best. Now I generally prefer to run assault rifles for the most part, and the weapon that I used the most in my playtime so far was the M5A3, which is essentially like the base assault rifle. Make sure to use the plus system, which is done with L1 or the left bumper on console or T on PC, and I personally found that the red dot sight, the extended ammo, the foregrip, and either a suppressor or a longer barrel to be the best loadout for the M5A3. The AK-24, which is the other assault rifle that I came across so far, was also really good as well. However, I didn't enjoy the scopes quite as much, so I didn't use it nearly as much as the M5A3, but if you do like the iron sights, this thing is also a beast, so be sure to give that one a crack as well. Now, as for which weapon I thought was the best overall, I think the DM7, which is a semi-automatic marksman rifle, was easily the best in the game, at least for me anyway. This thing just felt unbeatable at mid to long range, and it also just feels really good to use, so if you are a fan of semi-automatic weapons, definitely give this one a go as well. Those are probably the three weapons that I had the most success with, but that being said, different playstyles obviously suit different weapons, so definitely try and give them all a crack either way. Now moving on to some tips for the map itself, and the first one that I have for you guys is that there is actually a really useful underground tunnel that runs in between D1 and D2, and it allows you to get from each flag to the next without having to cross over that sort of wide open area near the launch pad. I actually only found this later on in the session, so I didn't get to use it all that often, but it allows for some very nice flanks, and it's also just a lot of fun fighting down there anyway, so I definitely recommend making the most of that, because I feel like most people probably won't know about it for a day or two, leaving you to get some very good use out of it early. Now when it comes to traversing around the map, there are actually a lot of zip lines around the map that are somewhat hard to find at first, but once you notice them, you will be able to really make the most of them and travel around the map a lot easier. For the large tower at the B flag, which is the highest point on the map, there are two zip lines out the back of it on the left of the building when you're looking at it from the spawn screen, and these both take you right to the top of the tower. As far as I know, at least as of right now, this is actually the only way up to the top other than via a chopper or jet obviously, but I could be wrong on that, as obviously I've only played a few hours as of recording this. Now inside the building there are also some zip lines that can take you sort of midway up the building for a nice overview of the map, which is handy to know as well, although there's really not that much to do up there. There are also zip lines all around the map leading to pretty much any high point of the map that you can see, and like I said, although they're kind of hard to see initially, you will eventually become accustomed to finding them pretty easily, and that will help a hell of a lot when it comes to getting around the map. Combining those zip lines with your parachute is also a really good way to get around. If you jump off the building and pull your chute straight away, then you will go down pretty slowly, but I found that if you actually let yourself fall a little bit first and get some speed up and then pull your chute, you can actually move really far horizontally as well as moving pretty quickly, which makes it a hell of a lot easier to get around the map. A new implementation with the parachute system too is that you can actually cut and pull your chute multiple times, similar to Warzone, and so if you're getting shot at while you're gliding, be sure to cut the chute, which I believe is done with the crouch button, and then you can actually pull it again too, but be careful about the height, as it does actually take a second or two to pull, and I learned that the hard way. Now another pretty simple tip is to make the most of the plus system, because early on I kind of forgot this was the thing, but by the end of the session I was using it a heap, and it helped me pinch a heap of extra kills. I found that mostly when it comes comes to the scope, changing it mid gunfight was really helpful. There was actually one point where I was using a red dot sight and I quickly switched to the ACOG scope to sort of help get the kill, and so long as you can find some cover in a gunfight, try your best to get the hang of changing those attachments, as it will definitely help you out, especially because it is a new function and a lot of people won't get the hang of it straight away. Now, speaking of the plus system, another great system that they have added is the vehicle call-in system, and this is really good for either getting across the map faster or even for getting out of a tough situation if you need to. If you press L1 and R1 on PlayStation, LB and RB on Xbox, or B on the PC, you will bring up a menu that allows you to choose your vehicle, showing only the ones that are available at the time, and then once you select it, you can aim where you want it, press the trigger, and it will call in a vehicle to your location. I'm not really a vehicle user all that often, but even I was using this a heap throughout my time playing. I found it really useful for getting from point A to point B when I needed a ride, and there were even a few times when I could see a bunch of enemies coming my way and I used it to essentially escape with my tail between my legs. So like I said, be sure to make the most of that system. Now, the last little tip that I have, and this is pretty obvious to be honest, but I have to say it anyway, and that is to make the most of the minimap. Even more than in previous Battlefield games, I felt like I was saving myself a lot by looking at the minimap, because spotted enemies and enemies who have shot their unsuppressed weapons will show up on the minimap, which gives you a great idea of your surroundings and can more often than not lead to a few extra kills. Something that goes hand in hand with that too is that if you're not using a suppressed weapon yourself, you will also show up on the enemy minimap. So just be sure to keep that in mind, as anyone on the other team who's paying attention will be able to tell where you are if you're nearby and shooting. But anyway guys, that is going to do it for this one. Obviously these tips were super simple and rather basic at the end of the day, but I know a lot of you guys might be playing Battlefield for the first time, and so I thought they might help out anyway. And as I said, once the game does actually come out, I will be making plenty of in-depth, like super highly detailed guides where I break down all the stats and all that kind of thing, so that stuff will be here eventually. If you guys have any tips of your own, then be sure to leave them in the comments section, as that'll only help everyone out even further. And at the end of the day, the better we do during the beta, the more fun we'll all have, so be sure to share those tips around. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. If you guys want to support the content that I make here on YouTube, then consider becoming a channel member. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.